I know a lot of you already know a lot about Mayor Berger, but for the benefit of those of you that don't, I just want to tell you a little bit about his background. Of course, he's serving his third term as the mayor of our great city. Prior to becoming mayor, he served on city council for 10 years. And prior to that, he garnered 30 years of experience in technology and management, working for American Standard, Rockwell Automation, and AT&T. He's lived in Bedford Heights for 37 years with his wife Melba and daughter Stacy. And he has a great passion for our city, especially maintaining Bedford Heights as a premier community for the residents, businesses, and employees. So with all that said, I'd like to present to you our mayor, Mayor Fletcher Berger. Please help me welcome him.
How's everybody? Good. Great, as it should be. Let me say to all of our friends and business associates and everyone that's here, I would really like to thank you for joining us here this afternoon. I am so grateful and so appreciative. I do realize that your time is valuable, so I'm definitely going to try to keep this down to 3 or 4 hours. Wait a minute, don't leave, that was a joke. No, but if I try to articulate all of the things that's going on and the status of everything, it would take us hours to do that. So what I'm going to attempt to do is to just highlight some of the important things that's going on here in Bedford Heights and some of the things that's having effect on us one way or the other. First of all, I would like to acknowledge a few people. I always get in trouble when I do this because I always manage to miss somebody. But the first people that I absolutely want to acknowledge is our wonderful council that we have here in Bedford Heights, Ohio. I know I caught them at a bad time. They're still eating. But I'm going to ask if they would at least stand up and be acknowledged. And I will point them out to you. First of all, we have this extremely wonderful council president, Mr. Harvey Brown. And his close by sidekick, Mr. Alton Tinker, who is the vice president of council. And so as we continue around the table, I think we have all of, are we missing anyone? We're missing one person, but he had acknowledged that he wouldn't be here. So we have Kay Gary, Gwendolyn Grant, Kathy Perez, Lloyd Anderson. And and let me acknowledge Mr. Phil Saunders. He had mentioned that he had an appointment and he may or may not be here. So we want to at least acknowledge him. He has been a long-serving and a dedicated member of this community for a number of years, and he has certainly put a great deal of his heart and soul into Bedford Heights, Ohio. So I want to thank you for your attendance, and I also want to thank you for your support, council. Now here's where I get in trouble. First of all, let me say thank you very much to Mr. Bob Spinks. Mr. Bob Spinks is the president of the Chamber of Commerce. We have a joint Chamber of Commerce, Bedford Heights Chamber of Commerce. And so I am so grateful because the Chamber of Commerce is sponsoring this State of the City address for us. And I appreciate that. Bob, please. I am delighted that I have 3 of my mayors here who are all partners with us in one way or the other. And if all of you would stand up, and we're going to start with the newest. For those of you who have not met the new mayor of Maple Heights. This is Mayor Blackwell. She and her city is already in partnership with us on some things that we are doing together. We absolutely believe that our strength is in our unity. So we are concerned about the streets that are on our borders, as we should be, so we want to be helpful. The next one, Stan, many of you know Stan. Stan is the mayor in Bedford. He is also one of our partners, and we'll talk about later on what they're partners in. And of course, I don't know how many of you know the mayor of Walton Hills. How many of you know him? Mayor Hurst, and he's also partners with us, so we have a lot of linkage because we have a school district that has 4 different communities, so the 4 mayors are linked together and partner and interact and do some things, and we're going to get over to the other side of the room where we have our newest superintendent who is also involved with us in doing some things. So you'll see a lot of synergies as we talk about the people around us. I am not going to overlook our wonderful state rep, John Barnes. He is a wonderful partner. At this point, one of the things that I must do is I must express my appreciation and gratitude for my administrative assistants. You know, all of you know Renee. Anybody who interacts with my office, they know Renee and they know Rod, my guy back there. You know, my life would not be the same without them. It absolutely would not be the same without them. But in addition to them, I am blessed to have some wonderful directors, my chief, fire and police, and each and every employee that we have who are absolutely committed to the success of Bedford Heights, Ohio. And so I say thank you. I am humbled by their dedication and their willingness to continuously do more with less. Thank you. Thank you. Now, you know, I am always very, very prideful anytime I have the opportunity to acknowledge our First Lady, Melva Berger. Let me tell you this. She is one of the hardest working, non-paid employees that I have. I'm telling you, it's work being the First Lady. I'm telling you, it's work. You're always on the go and what have you, and she does it with such grace and willingness that I realize how blessed and how fortunate I am. You know, and after a hard day, when you go home for comfort. That's what you want when you get there. And so I am blessed. I thank you, and I'd like to take a moment to thank the residents of Bedford Heights for electing me for the 3rd time as your mayor and safety director. I am grateful, I am humbled, I am very appreciative of the trust and faith that you have exhibited by allowing me to serve as your mayor. This annual presentation of the state of the city is required in accordance with our city ordinance. So this is not just an opportunity for me to get up and run my mouth. This is a required ordinance that I must do. This gives me, however, the opportunity to share my overall assessment of the previous year's finances, accomplishments, and future goals and objectives for the community. Now, I believe that it is our responsibility as community leaders to keep the residents informed. It is certainly appropriate that we discuss our finances and successes, but just as important, our vision for the future. And I use the word vision because governing is a team effort. No one person governs a community. It is a team effort. So as the city's CEO, that's Chief Financial Officer, I am charged with ensuring the financial welfare and stability of this community. That has been an tough undertaking of late, but we're doing okay. In 2015, we were once again able to conclude the year with a balanced budget, and it did take some moving stuff around, which is required by law. You must balance your budget. And it has occurred, I am proud to say, every year that I have been your mayor, and it will continue. I believe in balanced budgets. They will balance. Now, let me just tell you a little bit about what's been going on. In many respects, the economy has improved. However, that has yet to fully translate into the amount of revenues that we received prior to my becoming mayor. And there's a lot of reasons for this, but I will tell you just a couple. This is partly due to reductions in 2011 and 2013. Something significant happened. Our funds were reduced by 25% in 2011 and by 50% in 2013 by a local government funding. Now, for Bedford Heights in 2011, now just I'm gonna give you some numbers. Get out your pads and scribble these numbers down. In 2011, we received $466,000 from the local government funding. And that's a state funding. We send them money and they send us money back. So this is local government funding. I'm going to talk about this a little bit because you hear a lot about it on the television and the news. In 15, we received, get this, 466 down to 249. So that's a decrease of $217,000. In 10, the state began to phase out commercial activity tax. So in 10, the city of Bedford Heights received $838,000 in those taxes. In 15, we received $101,000, a decrease of $737,000. Now, if you're adding the math, those two moves alone cost the state to lose $954,000. 900, almost $1 million. Some other things that have happened that's had some detrimental effects on us is although our residential occupancy stands at 94%, however, real estate tax dollars are down nearly $833,000 from 2011 to 2015. Now here is the shocker. Those three items alone caused the city of Bedford Heights to lose $1,787,000. Now, you have to kind of put yourself in some of these positions and think about, if I'm running a household and I lose a certain amount of money, do I continue doing the same things that I have been doing? You can, but you know where you will end up. So we are constantly having to make adjustments. You know, now look, now we've been fortunate in that our commercial and industry occupancy rates stand at 92%. That's a good thing. Unfortunately, we have seen a reduction in the employment levels over several years. In 12, 13, 14, we had an average of 34% of our revenues derived from income taxes charged to businesses. We, remarkably, I should say, that number increased to 38% last year. That's roughly 4% increase, as you can imagine. But here's the issue. Given the average revenues over the last 3 years, an increase of $447,000 in revenue. However, it's nothing when you talk about increase of $447,000 if you just talked about losing $1.7 million. The numbers are just not adding up. So you're going to have a hard time covering that $2 million. You've got to get a lot of things to come to you to offset that. Look, so we're doing all the things that we can do. For example, we applied for and were awarded a $415,000 grant for demolition of various blighted properties throughout the city. In fact, we have $100,000 on the table for demolition of the hotel, the old hotel over on Rockside. So we got this $100,000 that we're sitting there using for negotiating money when we get somebody that comes to us and want to do something with that property over there. Another one of the things, let me now cover some of our revenue streams. Our revenue stream was down in 2015, but let's talk about where the revenue comes from. So in 2015, we had $22,800,000. $22 million. So how many people in here have to worry about managing a $22 million budget? Except the superintendent, who has to worry about $50 million. But here's where the $22,800,000 came from in revenue. And I'm only give you 4 primary sources. So income tax. That means that everybody who works in Bedford Heights pays 2% of their income to Bedford Heights. And that is our largest source of money. And that amounted to $8,800,000 in 15. Real estate taxes, $4,600,000. But you heard me talk about the fact that we lost over $800,000. And you know what's happening here. Because the market has not returned to the greatness that it once was. So if I purchase a house that used to be worth $100,000 and through some circumstance I get it for $40,000, should I pay $100,000 in taxes on it? No. So although our vacancy rate is pretty low, you don't see a lot of vacant houses, but what's happened is the real estate value that they calculate that on has actually gone down. So we're starting to lose dollars. Now look, most of the things that I say, I could stand either one of those mayors up here and they would be facing similar problems. So it's not a matter of us whining about it. It's a matter of us being willing to be innovative and doing different things, different ways with what we have. Don't spend what you don't have. There's no big secret there. Now we have a sewage treatment plant. How many of our residents know where our sewage treatment plant is? How many of you know? Dave. Look here, we're going to offer the residents a tour of the sewage treatment plant. See, we're going to offer you, because see, here's the point. You just sort of take it for granted until you get up one morning and you go, and you don't hear that familiar whoosh. Oh, you find us then. Oh, you will find us then. That is an extremely large operation. It costs $3.4 million to run that operation over there. That's a lot of money that the people who utilize that system pay for. And that means residents, that means businesses. Now, our plant is a plant that shares with other communities. So we do some things for Walton Hills in us? No. Oakwood, Glen Willow, Warrensville, you know, a lot of those other cities who are connected to our plant. And by the way, guess what? We have the lowest rates in the county. And that's because we own and we control what's going on there. So we don't have to try to take advantage of our own residents. We're trying to serve you. Now here's another large number. So we got $6 million in grants, revenues, and other miscellaneous things. But grants are not reoccurring dollars. You usually get them for specific purposes, but that don't guarantee you'll get anything the next year. Last year, our expenses exceeded our revenues. Well, that's a bad thing. When that happens, you've got to make adjustments and you've got to do something to make sure that you still present a balanced budget to the county. Now, we were able to finish the year with this balanced budget by moving some stuff around from here to there and making it balanced. It has to balance. It's not option. Fortunately, our expenses, unfortunately, our expenses have tended to trend downward in proportion to the revenue. So our expenses have been a little bit less, but now I want to keep taking you back to where we were when I talked about how much we lost. So now keep in mind, we're talking about millions of dollars less. So even if these expenses are trending down, you still have some problems. The $3.4 million in the grant dollars received in 2014, $3 million of which, as I said, we use this exclusively for the SECC. So this is non-occurring revenue. So when you talk about this $22 million, that's not going to be there next year. So we would expect to see that revenue go down by whatever amount that grant does not compensate for. Now, we've been able to reduce these expenses about an average of $178,000 a year last year over at least the last 3 years. But the revenues on the average have decreased $680,000 per year. And so the wonderful employees that take care of Bedford Heights, Ohio, are continuously having to do more with less. And I mean with less. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I mean when I say less in a moment here. Our expenses in general terms are broken down into 3 basic categories. I'm going to take the big numbers here. 3 basic categories: service, safety, and community life. If you just think about those 3 categories. So for the service that we provide here in the community in 15, it costs $11 million. $11 million. Nobody thinks about that when they get up in the street. It's clear. You can't even tell it snowed except you look in your own driveway. You know, all of the other things that go on. But we had to reduce that dollar amount by $1,700,000 in 2014. Because remember, the budget has to balance. Safety. I don't care where you live. If it's not safe, nothing else matters. Nothing matters. If you don't feel safe in your community, nothing else matters. We do not play with safety. We want everybody inside and outside of Bedford Heights to understand one simple fact. We control this. We control these streets. Nobody comes in here and takes over these streets. That's why we are willing to spend $10,900,000 to back up what we say. There are not many disbelievers for very long. Thank you, thank you. Community life. You know, the other thing important about a community is the quality of life that you get in that community. That's why a community center is so important. You know, it accounts for our leisure time activity. You know, you have to have somewhere to go, something to do, somewhere to gather. That's what a community center is about. So we spent $1.5 million running that operation over there. We charge minuscule amounts for people to be in there. It's never going to make enough money to pay for itself. Our kindness and love for our school system allows any members in our school district to utilize the facility. We don't have to. We just think that if we're blessed to have more capacity than we need, we ought to share it. Why wouldn't we? Sure. You know, it would be foolish to hoard it and not share it when you have access capacity. Now, let me switch a little bit here. Now, I believe most of you understand my aversion to bond debt. Hate debt. Hate debt. It is the one thing that will break your back, whether you're a business, whether you're a city, whether you're an individual. So let me tell you about, y'all got your pads out. I know you can't remember all these numbers. There is a quiz. Everybody, oh, okay. That's a joke. That was a joke. Look here. But listen to this real close. So I arrived in 2008. Our outstanding bond debt in 2008 was $5,600,000. That's a lot of money. December 31st, 2015, our outstanding bond debt was $909,606. Yeah. So for those of you who do quick math, that's a reduction in the bond debt of $4,690,000 in 7 years. So that means that's on an average we reduced it by $670,000 a year. Now, it's not about getting way ahead and resting. I mean, when you have aversion to debt, your plan should call for the elimination of bond debt. So we are on target to be free of all that bond debt by or before the end of this term that I'm in. This term. When does this term end? I'm glad you asked. 2019. That means we're going to go from that 5.6 down to 0. Now, that doesn't mean we may not see something important enough to borrow money along the way. But here's what you do. See, we haven't had bond debt in so long. Yeah, I'm not even sure what the bond rating is right now. But I tell you what, we will be able to borrow money when we need money, because we pay money back. We take care of it, we manage it. That's what you do is, what you're doing is you're getting your community in a position where if they need it, people are going to line up to give it to you. They want your business. Last year, we paid off the community center. Okay, look, people ask all of us, I'm sure, all the time, what's happening with the hotel? What's happening with the hotel? Hey, see, somebody woke up back there. Okay, look, I received emails and questions regarding the aspirations for this hotel. This, I call it former Bedford Heights Hotel, is now a hotel site frequently. But here's the thing. Since we received this property from the Cuyahoga County Land Bank in 2012, now keep in mind, we didn't purchase this property. We acquired this property through a land bank. So instead of plunking down the money or signing a note, here, do you want this property? Well, it's in our city, we'll take it, we'll do something with it. But we ain't paying for this thing. We ain't paying for it. You can give it to me, but I ain't buying it. So they gave it to us. That's how we got it. So it's not like we're paying debt on that hotel. And that's a very important point. So we have actively sought a developer, whether it's a business, whether they're a local, regional, entrepreneur, whatever. So we are talking to a lot of people about it. But we are very fussy about what we want to do in that area. So we're not interested in just having something come. So here's what I say to everybody that calls me. They'll call and they'll say, well, look, I'm interested in doing something with the hotel over there. Oh, okay. What are you interested in doing? Well, I was thinking about restoring it and making it a hotel. Well, thank you very much. I see you. Well, I was thinking about maybe getting it and turning it into some kind of housing. Yeah, thank you, bye. We have a vision for what we want on that property. That is one of the gateways to our community, so we're fussy and we're very protective of that piece of property. And I'm sure that the council and I are on the same page on being protective of that property. You know, we saw a significant change within our operations because we built this Southeast Communication Center, and it came online last year. It's a very big deal, very big deal. It was challenging. The process of putting this together was tough. We had a team of an awful lot of people who were responsible for this. This guy always gets mad when I say this. He always says, don't say that. I'm the mayor, actually, but I don't. So I got this guy. Where's that Chief Lefford? Where is he hiding? There he is back there. Chief Lefford, Chief Murata. The one reason that we were able to be successful and bring these other cities on board is because my inter-partners were on the same page and absolutely committed to make this happen. And as a result of that, yes, they deserve it. They deserve it, right. Give them applause. They deserve it. That effort allowed us, and now I'm going to talk about my partners. I see two of them there. Stan Cochee in Bedford was one of the first mayors, and he was one of the first cities. So they came on board with us. We had Maple Heights come on board with us. We had Garfield come on board with us. So we now have 4 communities that we are providing 911 emergency service out of that center. Now, what does that do for us? First of all, the center costs $3 million to build. It costs about $2,200,000 to operate a year. None of us have $2 million to spare to run that kind of facility. And that's why joining together to accomplish these things is significant. Cities cannot operate in a silo. They must operate as units for the good of the whole, period. So in 2008, our payroll was $11 million. $11 million. We had 267 full-time and part-time employees. 267. At the end of 14, the payroll was $9,800,000. So we had 198 employees versus 267. Now, given all of the staff changes over the course of last year, our current payroll is $9,200,000, down from 11 million, and we have 109 full-time and 47 part-times. We have 156 employees when we had 267. The difference is nearly $2 million. So how do you lose $2 million and keep functioning? By innovative ways of doing things differently. So, and not only that, so we saved all that money, but if we still had, think about this, if we still had that 58 full-time employees, not only are we talking about saving that $2 million, if we just provided them insurance, it would cost us another $1 million and other benefits. Let me tell you a little bit about our housing stock in Bedford Heights. We have 5,806 houses, residential housing dwellings in Bedford Heights. 2,766 of those are residential houses. So you can see that we have about a 50-50 split of apartment dwellers and residential dwellers. Now, apartment dwellers are, hey, they're just as valuable residents as other people. We respect everybody. They pay rent to be here also. But the home ownership stands at about 94%. 94%. We monitor this very closely, and we know what's going on everywhere. So we have 165 houses currently classified as unoccupied. That means that you have 6% of your housing stock that's unoccupied. Now, occupied doesn't mean vacancy, because 26 of these houses are currently into a rehab state. So people come in, they buy the houses, they rehab them, they move in. We also, I told you about that $415,000 grant that we got. We use that to demolish houses. If we have blighted houses that can't be repaired, we want them torn down. And that's what we do. We're also thrilled with that the renters want to become residents. The beauty of, we have some of these properties that are for rent, and we have a housing coordinator and a housing and building department. And what we are trying to do is people who move in the community and rent, we want to get them converted from renters to owners. It does make a difference when people have ownership and buy into the property, and we know that. So let me talk just a minute about this community life, because this is one of the highlights that I talked about in the amount of money. We terminated our contract with the aquatics vendor that operated our pool previously. It was Hastings. We terminated that contract. And our city employees are now overseeing the management and the operation of our aquatics facility. I think some of you who go to the center know this. This change was facilitated to provide our residents with more personalized aquatics experience and is expected to give us financial benefit. So you all have already figured out by now that that's one of my hot buttons, finance. I have personally witnessed the fact that more residents seem to be taking advantage of this wonderful pool facility as a result of this change already. And I thank council for that support. I don't want to, you remember what I said, governing is a team sport. Huh? So when you hear me say this, I don't want you to get hung up with thinking this is all me. This is all me. It's not. This is team sport. All right? Okay, one other improvement was the addition of a brand new pavilion. I know some of you have seen that brand new pavilion that's over there next to the Funtown Playground. Yes? No? Yes. Take a look at it. That's a result of our community life director, Ruth Gray, who was able to acquire grants. One of the things we do, when I talked about that $6 million, a lot of that money that we use to do what we do comes from these grants that we're able to get. And that's another example of that. You know, because if we're going to spend $1.5 million annually to operate the community center, now here's my disappointment. Here's my disappointment. I don't want you to think everything's rosy. Here's my disappointment. We have less than 1,200, or we have right around 1,200 members with a pass to that center. I'm going to say publicly, I think that's ridiculous. With all that we have to offer and those low prices to the center, the place should be packed. Should be absolutely packed. And I honestly believe that if residents would come, take a tour of the facility, and see all of the wonderful things that we have to offer, that they would become members. And I can't say enough about these wonderful volunteers that we have in Bedford Heights. I could talk about them for an hour. Another one of the reasons that we are able to do the things that we do in Bedford Heights is because of the wonderful volunteers who come for every event that we have, whatever we need them to do, they're right there. I am so grateful. We couldn't begin to pay you for all that you do, and so I am grateful. You know, and here's some facts I want to give you. This wonderful facility, our residents 65 and older make up 18% of our population. 18%. But they make up 61% of the membership in the center. I'm going to change the name to senior citizens. Why wouldn't I? If that's who I'm going to get there. Come on now, we got to utilize this. We're spending a lot of money. You need to take advantage of that. Now we resolved that we are going to do a better job of marketing that center. But let me tell you some other stuff that goes on here that people don't really know about. Our annual food service program, which is funded by the United States Department of Agriculture and the Ohio Department of Education, expanded the food distribution site from 4 sites to 8 sites last year. Now that's run by the community center also, and this is for the last year. In 2015, we were able to serve 9,000 meals to children throughout the communities. 9,000 meals. You know. Now, why do you need this? Because when school is out, children still need to eat. So if they can't afford to eat when they're in school, why would they be able to eat when they're out of school? That's why we have to distribute this food. Since taking office in 2008, we have had the great fortune to be able to hire more than 300 of our own youth here in Bedford Heights, Ohio. The youth between the ages of 14 and 21, they work for us in various summer jobs, and you see a lot of them out there. We have this responsibility to take care of our youth. The seniors, you know, we're taking as good a care of the seniors as we can. It is our desire to maintain these programs. But let me tell you this, and we checked this out to try to find out. In the county of Cuyahoga County, there is no other community that provides all of the things that we provide to cities. So when we call them and inquire and tell them, they think we're the crazy ones. What do you mean, cut grass? What do you mean, do we shovel their snow? What do you mean, you send them on trips? What do you mean, you buy lunch? You know, I mean, there are all of these things that we in Bedford Heights takes for granted. Do your own survey. Do your own survey. They are absolutely unheard of. We cut down a lot of trees. Emerald ash trees. Nick over in the service department and his people cut down trees. We removed, in 15, we cut down 309 trees. Huge trees. Well, I expect people to notice. If you cut down 309 trees, you're going to hear from somebody, you know. So we cut them down. And the thing is, we got about $52,000 of that money from an Ohio Natural Resource grant to do that. So once again, it didn't cost the residents to do what we did, but we had diseased trees. We started out, we had 600 of them. 600 trees. It costs a lot of money to take them back. But I will tell you this, we do fully intend to put those trees back. So this year, we are going to start replacing those trees. We took down 600. We are looking to put back about 100 of them this year. So now you're going to see the replanting process. Since 2013, we have seen a 14.5% reduction in the major crime categories in the city of Bedford Heights. Now, here's the beauty. When I say that to people, most people say, what crime? What crime? Because we don't see a lot of crime, but wherever there is crime, the main purpose is that you are on a decline. If you got 10 crimes, you ought to be trying to get down to 8. If you got 3, you ought to be trying to get down to 1. So we give you this evidence to say that we are in that mode, and 14.5% reduction. We also have great involvement with our youth. We have a PAC, it's called PAC, Police and Community Working Together, where we are working with the youth to keep them out of trouble before they get into trouble. If we can put our youth into some kind of a diversion program and help them before they get locked into this system that's going to punish them for life, you know, I'm telling you, it's going to make a world of difference. And so we have 3 of our detectives that work on this program all the time with these youth to keep them straight. The fire department is proactive. They're out with these businesses all of the time. They're telling the residents, they have these open houses, they're giving out smoke detectors, they're telling people how to be safe in their homes. So they're doing a lot to make sure that we can eliminate some of these things. So let me tell you just a couple more things. We have had great pleasure in association with the Cleveland Food Bank. I got to say a word about this. To be able to provide food to our residents. And this program, through kind donations of individuals and corporations, has been in effect since 2012. And last year, we were able to provide food to 1,315 people in our area. These are households, and on the average, we feed 109 people per month. Last year alone, the Cleveland Food Bank supplied us with little more than, get this, 102,000 pounds of food that we were able to distribute to needy families throughout the community. And I want to tell you about two very big projects that we are working on right now. They are already kind of in motion. We talked about them for a long time. One of the projects that's being worked on, most of these are in the bid stage, so it'll be a little while. Don't think you're going to see it next week. But the widening of 271 in Bedford Heights, Ohio. You see that bottleneck, you see that backup, you see what a problem that is with people trying to get through there. So they are not only going to widen that freeway on 271, they are also going to put up sound barriers because the people, imagine if you're living on White Pine or Bear Creek, you're sitting right on that freeway. So if they widen that and put more lanes in, you're gonna have that traffic that's gonna be unbearable. So they're gonna also put sound barriers up. This is about a $126 million project. And I tell you what, and I am so glad that John Barnes is here. Representative John Barnes is here. You all know who he is, because I'm telling you, he was one of the people who was instrumental in pushing for that. Another one of the projects that I want to tell you about that I'm so thrilled about is Northfield Road.
Yes.
Northfield Road from Muni Drive going under the bridge is a mess. It's a mess. It's been a mess for a while. And our guys go over there and they fix it and they fix it and they fix it. So who do you think I talked to? Representative Barnes. I'm telling you, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to be able to call your state representative on his cell phone and have him take your call when he sees your name come up. It's a beautiful thing. So I called him and I explained to him what was going on. So he brought ODOT into the picture, and ODOT, realizing what Maple Heights' situation was and realizing what our desire was, he negotiated a deal with them to have them pick up the tab for Maple Heights. That was great. That was great. But you know how I say, we want more, we want more? Me too. Well, John, what about me? Pick up my share. Look here. If you're going to pick up their share, can't you pick up my share? So the state is picking that whole thing up. And I think that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. And my understanding is they are preparing to go out for bid for that sometime real soon. So we're optimistic that that is going to get finished. Yeah. By the way, $1.3 million is what they're going to put in there.